Welcome back to the KickNPost YouTube channel and podcast with your hosts Jamal Thompson and Chris Perry. And today we're hopping into one of the most electric wide receivers in the NFL draft upcoming, Jalin Hyatt out of Tennessee. How you doing today, Chris?
Good, man. I just saved the day. My laptop almost died, so
Okay.
I'm clutch
What's
with
saving
it.
the
But
day? I can't wait for you to get the video over to. I'm rocking some new KMP merch. Nothing official on sale, but gotta rep the brand. Nice little winter hat. But let's hop into this receiver, Jalin Hyatt, who post combine his stock's gone down a little bit. But based on what I see on film, I feel like his story is pretty simple to write. He is a burner. On field speed looks crazy. A lot of his highlights are him catching balls in wide open space. As a wide receiver, that's a beautiful thing. That means that you've either beat your coverage or you've beat the athlete across from you. Don't really find him much playing in the slot or anything like that. This man is literally put on the outside and just sent to go. I don't think I'm wrong in that assessment.
not at
Had
all.
Hendon Hooker with a very strong arm. So you pair Hendon Hooker with Jalin Hyatt. It's a match made in heaven, obviously, for Tennessee. We saw that. Have that boy let the cannon loose. Have Jalin Hyatt down the field to catch that thing. Now, in terms of NFL production and how this will convert to him being a player in the NFL, he is very dependent on landing spot. I don't think I'm wrong in saying
Nah,
that
super
if he
dependent.
touches down with New England, Jalin Hyatt will not succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a wrap for him.
If he touches down in a team or an offense that doesn't like to attack the deep ball or doesn't have the quarterback with the capabilities to throw a really good deep ball, Jalin Hyatt will underproduce based on what people could see him doing if he lands in the right situation. Now, there's been comps to Deshaun Jackson. I don't think he has that type of game-breaking speed, but there's comps to Will Fuller, which when I glance over real quick, I see it. In orange, wasn't Will Fuller a Clemson Tiger?
I have no idea. I hope
I don't even remember where Will Fuller went, to be honest with you. A little bit disrespectful from me, but I do know that he played with Deshaun Watson. And a lot of things I saw in Will Fuller's tape in the NFL was him running past DBs and Deshaun throwing that thing 65 yards, right? So I could
Yeah.
see shades of that for Jalin Hyatt with the right quarterback. Now, he ran a 4.4 at the combine, a little bit slower than expected, especially weighing 176. He's supposed to fly. But I don't think that's bad. Again, I believe in on-field, in-pad speed. I don't really care too much about the combine speed. 4.4 is okay for combine. A little bit better technique, you probably could have gotten him down to the 4.39s, the 4.38s. But route tree, not much to write home about. As I've seen on tape, I don't see him really cooking anybody or like finding the DB's blind spot. It's literally just go one speed straight up the field and hope that they either make a mistake on defense or that you could beat the DB in a track race. And he seems to do that quite often. So I'm okay with what I see. Not everybody's gonna be the route specialist. I think he plays his role pretty well. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, you're pretty spot on. His route tree is more of like a route twig. He has like a couple routes that he does very well. Everything else I've never seen.
Yeah.
I think his speed, especially with the 4.4, translate not in the sense of he's not a blazer, but I think I hate to say it, but that's a plus. Like, you would imagine what you see on film, him being a lot faster, and then you see a 4.4, so you got to dive a little bit deeper. How could that be the case? And I think his advantage is just knowing game speed. He knows how to run next to a DB and set him up perfectly where the DB thinks, okay, he's already at his top speed, and then you see this large distance grow, and Hyatt's not even like working as hard. He just has long strides. He's getting to where he knows his actual top speed is, and that's deadly in the NFL, especially when you do master those deep posts, the go. It's like you have to commit to one of those, and if you don't know where he's going with that type of speed, then it's like you see on film, it's a wrap for most DBs. He's going to be good in more of a complementary role. So like you said, can't be a one on any team. He's going to need someone else to take that heat for him to where he could then excel. Same thing we saw with Will Fuller. But I think we might have a case of limited capability, or not limited capability, but what we seen at Tennessee, their offense wasn't really like a full-fledged NFL offense. So I know, like, I'm on his NFL profile right now. They have him as a boomer bust potential because we know what he's really good at, but we haven't, or they didn't really ask too much from him. So it's like you really don't know what you're really getting from him. If you are going to take him early in the second, late in the second, he could end up being like a top 3 receiver in this draft, or he could end up being a Will Fuller.
I mean, guys evolve, right? And I mean, if
Yeah.
you drop them in a system where they have pretty solid wide receiver coaches and they could, kind of hone in on some of those skill sets that he's really good at, and then like amplify the ones that he's not great at, like turn those into strengths as well. He has the speed and the length and somewhat of the body type. I like him to be a little bit bigger, but somewhat of the body type to be a legitimate one. Me personally, landing spots I see for him to succeed day one, Arizona.
Ooh, I was gonna say that. I'm so glad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Drop him in Arizona's offense and have him do what he does well. Utilize Marquise Brown, who does have a little bit more of a route tree, but is also smaller, so you could move him around the field a little bit more. I've seen Marquise Brown show a little bit more on film in the NFL already, in terms of his route tree. You could put Jalin Hyatt on the outside, and he could be a day one starter for you once you trade DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, Cleveland could use him as well. If he's the second coming of Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson would be glad to have him. Obviously, you're a Cincinnati fan. You don't want to see that.
I don't want that.
But those are the two teams off rip that I see him succeeding day one. Teams that could kind of nurture him, give me the Steelers. I really have respect for the Steelers wide receivers coach and how he, kind of cultivates his talent over there. They don't really need him in that wide receiver room right now. But if they lose Deontay Johnson and you move George Pickens to play that role, you could use Jalin Hyatt in the less, how do you put it? The less, not confusing, but the less, I'd say the
Complex.
more simplistic offensive role, where you put him on the outside, send him deep, until you can kind of cultivate those other routes, and have him become more than just a deep ball specialist, which I think day one he will excel at that, and that's okay. From a fantasy perspective, unless you're playing best ball, you need a little bit more than that. I know everybody loves the idea of plugging a guy into your offense on say Saturday night, Sunday morning when you're setting your rosters for fantasy, and you have that little itch, like, this dude could give me 40 points at any point in the season. I might get 40 points off this boy because he's going for 180 and 3 touchdowns. Or you could get 1 point where he catches the ball at the line of scrimmage and that's his entire game. That's the type of player Jalin Hyatt could end up being for you in the beginning. He's not the most consistent guy to bank on, again, for production day one. So me personally, my investment point in rookie dynasty drafts, unless he touches down with obvious people, like, if since he trades T. Higgins on draft day and replaces him with Jalin Hyatt, I know. Or Kansas City takes him and then kills my Justin Ross dreams. Or if, he lands with the two teams I had announced on, again, early draft day capital, back end of the first, early second, then I'd be willing to spend, an early second round pick on the kid. He doesn't sneak into my first round in a 12-team league because I don't see enough for me to take him again over the quarterbacks, over the running backs that I'm excited for, or over any of the Jordan Addisons, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, the Josh Downs, the Zay Flowers, who we'll cover soon, or even a guy I'm not too high on, but the Quentin Johnsons of the world. Those guys fill in the back end of my first. And then I start looking at the Jalin Hyatts of the world in the early second. How you feel about that, Chris?
I mean, I think you're pretty spot on. It's like, take your chance. He could be worth the risk, depending on the landing spot. But after the first 2 receivers with JSN and Addison, you can pretty much group these guys together. Like, the top of the bunch is going to be Quentin, is going to be Hyatt, is going to be Zay. But I think they're far from what we're getting from the other 2. So take your chances, do your research.
Even Zay?
Yeah, Zay just got all this hype out of, like, I want to say mostly from the combine, which is like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. I feel like at least with Addison and JSN, they're like, they're for sure going to be solid in the league. Everyone else is like, okay, well, they had potential. They were great in college, but it's like just didn't translate for some odd reason. Not to say that's going to happen, but I do think the other two are way safer picks than everybody else. Like, no question, first two out of the discussion with everybody else.
I kind of think that, but Addison has lost a lot of steam because of the combine. So we do have to look back and see, like, where does he land? What's the draft capital? And I'm not trying to skip ahead, but when we do the Addison video, he comes very much to like a former USC receiver who was generally known as the guy who should be the best wide receiver in this class, and because of a bad combine, slipped on draft boards, and now he's almost unattainable in Dynasty, right? I could see a very similar career path for an Addison. So
yeah, so guess time will tell.
Early second round capital for me in the rookie draft.
Yeah.
I do project Jalin Hyatt because he wasn't as much of a burner as expected on tape. I do expect him to go day 2 on the NFL draft. And again, Arizona or Cleveland are the spots in my head, but I could see him being able to, find his way somewhere else. But I feel like day 1, those are the best spots for him. Any closing thoughts on Jalin Hyatt, my boy? I
really just hope he doesn't go to the Steelers. Like you said, it's the best landing spot. They'll nurture him well. I don't want that. Who dey?
Who dey? Shouts out to y'all. Again, we're on this road to 500. I'm going to keep shouting it out till we get there. 439 right now. 61 more subscribers. We get to 500. We appreciate y'all for all the support, and we'll catch y'all on the next player profile. Peace.